All but one of the nominees for the first Academy Award 60 years ago were silent pictures. Even the part-talking jazz singer was mostly silent. And the first person ever to accept an Academy statuette, they didn't call them Oscars yet, was the German star, Emil Jannings. He won that Oscar for two performances, In the Way of All Flesh and this film, one of Joseph von Sternberg's best, The Last Command. But the picture, considered by many one of the most brilliant of silent movies, did not win. Director Joseph von Sternberg never won an Oscar. A few years later, when Adolf Hitler began to run Germany, Emil Jannings became a loyal artist for the Third Reich. And several years after that, just at the end of World War II, when the Allies marched into Berlin, the pathetic figure of Emil Jannings met them in the streets, desperately holding up his Oscar, pointing at it and repeating, "Oscar, see, Oscar, don't shoot, Academy Award." They didn't shoot.
Where did you get that 20 pounds? Tell us. I can't remember. I can't remember, Dan. I don't know.
Victor McLaglen also won his Oscar for a picture that didn't win, John Ford's Irish classic, The Informer, released in 1935, which did, however, win awards for Best Direction, Best Writing, and Best Music Score. Mutiny on the Bounty won Best Picture, but nothing else.
A mere mention of his name, and I feel positively murderous.
The breakthrough screwball comedy Leo McCarey's The Awful Truth was nominated in 1937 but didn't win. Neither did its star, nominee Irene Dunne, giving perhaps her most brilliant comic performance. Director McCarey did win. But McCarey had, the same year, made a very personal, tragic film about an elderly, unwanted married couple called Make Way for Tomorrow, possibly the saddest picture ever made and also possibly the least popular. Still, it was McCarey's favorite, and so when he received his award, he thanked the Academy and then added, "But you gave it to me for the wrong picture." The following year was the first time a foreign language film ever was nominated for Best Picture, Jean Renoir's French classic, The Grand Illusion, a pacifist drama of life in a World War I POW camp. It didn't win, however. Frank Capra's You Can't Take It With You did. The next year, 1939, was, many experts agree by now, the high water mark for the American film. The quantity of quality pictures has probably never been equaled. Just for example, among those nominated that year for Best Picture were Frank Capra's political comedy, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, starring James Stewart and Jean Arthur. Ernst Lubitsch's romantic comedy spoof of Russian communists in Paris, Ninotchka, starring Greta Garbo in the title role. The John Ford Western that revitalized the genre and immediately became the model and standard for most subsequent Westerns, Stagecoach, starring John Wayne. And the amazing MGM version of Frank Baum's children's classic, The Wizard of Oz, featuring Judy Garland's most memorable childhood performance.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Here he is, the wizard of Oz, if ever a wizard there was.
These and a number of others as good. Until 1944, the Academy used to nominate 10 Best Pictures a year. They all lost to a little Civil War film David O. Selznick had produced called Gone with the Wind. And 2 years later, 1941, almost as good a year, among the 10 nominees were a number of firsts. Cary Grant's first of 4 memorable pictures with Alfred Hitchcock, Suspicion with Joan Fontaine, and John Huston's first film as a director with his own adaptation of Dashiell Hammett's The Maltese Falcon with Humphrey Bogart and Mary Astor. And it was also the year of another director's first film, Orson Welles' Citizen Kane, the first for his entire cast of Mercury players as well. They all lost to John Ford's family drama, How Green Was My Valley.
My time's...
On the other hand, I am the publisher of the Inquirer. As such, it's my duty, and I'll let you in on a little secret. It's also my pleasure to see to it that decent, hard-working people in this community aren't robbed blind by a pack of money-mad pirates just because they haven't anybody to look after their interests.
But 25 years later, an international poll of critics voted Citizen Kane first among all the films ever made anywhere. Citizen Kane would be the only American film of Welles's that was released exactly as he wanted it, and it did receive 1 Oscar for the screenplay by Herman J. Mankiewicz and Orson Welles. Maybe Citizen Kane can stand for all those Oscar losers, the pictures that got nominated and, for whatever reason, didn't win, and for all those pictures perhaps that didn't even get nominated, but which time, the final arbiter, elects to remember.